Hi, fourth grade. It's Miss Duran again. I'm back here for our third ELA lesson. Before I start this week, I want to say a shout out to the students who did the check-in this week. That is Malia Vernado, Deontarius Galloway, Christopher Mullins, Carmen Jones, Cassidy Harris, and Jeremiah McFadden. Thank you guys so much for doing your work. I'm so proud of each and every one of you. Now let's get started with this week's lesson on first-hand and second-hand accounts. You know now that every week we start with our learning target, so our lesson 16 is going to be on comparing accounts of the same topic. Let's start reading together. Comparing and contrasting first-hand and second-hand accounts of the same event or topic will help you develop a deeper understanding of what happened. For this slide, I'm starting right at the top next to that green word, read. When you compare accounts of the same topic, you are studying the writer's viewpoint. A first-hand account is written by someone who witnessed or took part in an event as it happened. Someone who heard or read about an event writes a second-hand account. You can compare the information or facts each reader chooses to emphasize. In 1900, a powerful hurricane wrecked the city of Galveston, Texas. It destroyed many homes. This boy watched the hurricane as it was happening. His description of the event would be a first-hand account that includes his thoughts and feelings. He wants to retell what he experienced. That's very important, boys and girls. They want you to know that first-hand accounts always share thoughts and feelings. His speech bubble even says, "I'm going to write down everything I have seen so that I can remember it." This is telling us that the person has to be there for it to be a first-hand account. Now let's go to the bottom section. The girl was not in Galveston in 1900. She knows about the hurricane from reading a book written about it many years later. The book would be a second-hand account with a broader focus. It would include background information and other details from research. Now her speech bubble says, "I learned about the Galveston hurricane by reading a new book about it." So remember, boys and girls, for second-hand account, the individual was not at the event. They're using background information and details to know about the event. They were not there. Now on this page with the Venn diagram, I want us to consider everything we've learned so far, and we're going to write how are they the same and how are they different. So in the first-hand account, what makes a first-hand account a first-hand account? Well, I had two important words. Those two important words are it's going to be about thoughts and feelings of the person. Another important thing about a first-hand account is the person was at the event. Now let's go to contrast. On the other side of the Venn diagram is the second-hand account. In a second-hand account, instead of thoughts and feelings, we're using background information and details. For second-hand account, the person was not at the event. Now, in the middle section for both, I want us to know that we're going to be retelling the same event. On the next slide, I'll be providing you the answers to fill out for your Venn diagram. Just for clarification, when someone describes an event he or she saw or experienced, that's a first-hand account. When someone who was not there uses information from other sources to tell about the event, that's a second-hand account. Comparing and contrasting accounts about the same event helps you better understand what happened. Now please follow along as I read this first passage to you. The Unsinkable Titanic by Julian Green. For more than 100 years, the story of the Titanic has fascinated people. It was the largest passenger steamship ever built, already world famous when it launched. One magazine proudly called it unsinkable. But that pride would crumble on Titanic's first voyage across the Atlantic Ocean. There were 2,240 passengers and crew on that voyage. The ship left Southampton, England on April 10, 1912. It was scheduled to reach New York City 10 days later, but at 11:30 on the night of April 14th, the Titanic hit an iceberg that tore open the ship's massive hull. As the vessel took on the water, it began to sink. The ship's captain told his radio operator to call for help. Then he ordered the crew to lower the lifeboats. In the panic, fleeing passengers launched most of the boats with several empty seats. By 2:20 the next morning, 3 hours after striking the iceberg, the Titanic had sunk. Another ship, the Carpathia, was 58 miles away when it received the distress call. The Carpathia rushed to rescue the survivors. Only 705 people were saved. Newspaper headlines across the world announced the loss of the unsinkable ship. It quickly became the subject of countless books and films. In fact, the first Titanic movie appeared just a month later, starring one of the survivors. British and American officials tried to discover the causes of the disaster. They looked at everything from the way the ship was built to the actions of the crew. In the end, the main lesson of the Titanic was that no ship is truly unsinkable. The Explorer question says, how would a first-hand account and a second-hand account of the sinking of the Titanic differ? You can use your Venn diagram to help you to remember what's the difference between a first-hand and second-hand account. Question number 1. Who would write a first-hand account about the sinking of the Titanic? I'm going back to my Venn diagram. It says that it's going to be about thoughts and feelings, and the person was there. So if I'm thinking about the Titanic, a person that would write a first-hand account would be someone who was on the Titanic as it was sinking. So it would need to be a survivor. The second part of the question says, who would write a second-hand account? In my Venn diagram, it says a second-hand account uses background information and details and the person was not there. So a person that would write a second-hand account is probably someone that did research or read a book about the Titanic sinking. Now, question number 2. Reread the magazine article. Do you think this is a first-hand or second-hand account? Find evidence in the selection to support what you think. I know from my answers to item 1 that a first-hand account of the sinking of the Titanic would be written by a person who was directly involved in the event. A second-hand account would be written by a person who only heard or read about the sinking. So I'm going to go back to the article and look for details that'll help me figure out, did the writer actually live through the event, or did they just use information from other sources to write this? I'm going to start with the first paragraph. The first sentence says that the Titanic story has fascinated people for over 100 years. This detail tells me that the account was written long after the sinking happened, so it's probably not likely someone lived that long. Also, the next paragraph provides lots of facts and details about the ship that probably came from different sources. Also, there's no mention of feelings or thoughts about the sinking, right? If the Titanic sunk and you were on it, you'd probably write about how that felt, and I'm not seeing that. So right now, I want you to go ahead and pause the video and write what you think it is, first-hand or second-hand account. Click play when you finish answering. If you wrote second-hand account, good job. I'm so proud of you. You're absolutely correct. It is second-hand account for all the reasons we listed. Lots of facts and details, no feelings or emotions, and the person was not there during the sinking of the Titanic. Take this time to make sure you have this page completed. So that completes our model lesson. Now go ahead and do the rest of the packet if you can. The most important part I want you to finish is the independent practice. Please be prepared for our Thursday Zoom call at 12 p.m. Please have your parents text or call me if anything is needed. I love and miss you all very much. Bye-bye.